It is a great honor for me today to welcome Claudine Boulstridge for our final seminar of the year. We normally begin these seminars with a brief introduction to the speaker, but really most of this particular one will be an extended introduction to Claudine's incredible life and work in food, with time at the end for questions from the audience. So do keep those in mind as we go along. If you don't know Claudine, perhaps the best place to start is her very popular Instagram account, Healthy Family Food Ideas. That's filled with bright and colorful and delicious looking plates of food, usually against a particular shade of blue that I find really, really gorgeous. So Claudine, could you start by telling us a little bit about this account and about what led you to create it?
Thank you. Well, it was really just a photo diary for myself at the beginning. So my now eldest child started school, and sadly, although I thought that Jamie Oliver had improved school lunches, sort of taken out turkey twizzlers and other things that had been in the news, I just realised quite quickly that actually the menu is still very limited, mostly sort of fish and chips and pizzas and just quite processed ingredients or overboard vegetables. And there really wasn't much nutrition there. I did start a bit of a sort of campaign locally and try to improve things, but I didn't get very far. So I started making her lunch boxes, and I wanted to obviously make them appeal to a sort of 3, 4-year-old. So I tried to make them really colourful, but including lots of healthy things, but in a really nice, fun, exciting way, so that when she opened her lunchbox, she really wanted to eat it and didn't feel left out if the others were having school lunches. So yeah, I started sharing them, and others obviously liked them and asked them for the recipe of what I'd put or wanted a list of it. So it just started growing naturally from there.
Wonderful. Your kids are very lucky, I must say. I always love the look of those beautiful bento-style lunchboxes. But you have since moved on to posting about other food as well, right?
Sorry, there was meant to be that slide about the lunch. My little cursor wasn't. Yes, so then I suppose just over the years, I just really enjoyed sharing dinners with people, because everybody, including a chef, needs new ideas for really quick dinners when you come home from work. Snack ideas, again, so you don't have to buy sort of packaged processed things. Even the healthy labeled snacks seem to have a lot of nonsense in them. So
Mm.
again, I just started showing lots of different things, and people really liked it. Anything from meals, snacks, breakfasts, all kinds of things, as you can see here. Biscuits, just always really quick and easy to put together. So they appeal together that you could do them really fast, or the kids could even make them themselves. So yeah, it just grew in popularity from that, which was really lovely to see and to share.
Hmm. And it's not just an Instagram account, of course. You have a website, newsletters, and e-shop.
Yes. So in lockdown, my sister had a bit of time and was changing jobs, and so she made me a website. I'm not technical. I'm a chef. So without her, I wouldn't have really done that. And obviously, I wasn't being paid or anything for my Instagram, so it wasn't really worth me investing and things like that. But she did it for
Mm.
free and helped me set up newsletters, and she's very organized like that. So it was really nice for me again to sort of build up a database of people who wanted my recipes, and then I could share them more easily, because sometimes on Instagram they don't always get shown to people. It's not very easy to obviously keep them, access them or print them out or anything like that. So again, it just sort of grew naturally.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed sharing it that way as well as on Instagram.
Right. And you also run online cookery classes.
Yes, so again, that was a lot of people asking for it. And as I used to teach before I had kids, it was a really nice way to do it from my home. Um, all kinds of things like raising money for charity, team building, life skills, platter workshops. I did one here, you can see set up in my kitchen. Again, it was all very new to me, but as the world was going more on Zoom, it seemed to make sense. So again, it was nice to have enthusiastic people to share my passion with online when we couldn't really see everyone.
Gosh, that's such a beautiful platter. Wow. Um, could you give us a taste of some of this content, maybe some examples of your newsletters?
Yes. So, I mean, they vary every single month. I do about 2 recipes that I send out for free. So they could be anything from a dinner, like a one-pan dinner or a slow cooker dinner. It could be breakfast ideas. That's been really popular, sort of trying to move away from maybe processed cereals and other alternatives that are not too challenging for the morning. Snack ideas. So this one here is a tea cake. On the left, this is my going to be in my newsletter next week. So it just takes 3 minutes to blend it all together. It's a bit like a sweet bun. There's no flour in it. It's just replaced with really healthy ingredients: sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, eggs. But it just tastes like a lovely little bun. So I always try and share things that I hope will help people have slightly less processed food. And other things, I don't know, when it's snack time, people love sort of healthy. This is like a 4 ingredient blueberry muffin there that you just again stir together and bake. So really, really simple, almost as simple as going to the shops and buying it. There was a chocolate cake there with olive oil, which makes it dairy free. It's really nice and fluffy, but really low sugar. And same with the donuts. My kids have always loved donuts, but I don't like reading the ingredients of bought donuts. So that was how I challenge myself, and that's normally how I get these ideas for Instagram. Is a lot of that, yeah. And platters when I don't want to cook. So even as a chef, I really don't want to cook sometimes when I have people over. So I've always found it's a really easy way, and people obviously like those ideas as well. You can present something really beautiful, but you don't actually need to cook anything. It's not like cooking a 3-course, entertaining dinner. So that's been quite popular as well. So,
Gosh, again, the pictures look amazing. We always advise people before our seminars to eat beforehand because this is making me really hungry. But I'm sure that some of these creations are also helped by the fact that you are, as you say, a trained chef, right? Could you talk a little bit more about how you got into that world?
yes, it's a bit of a random story. After university, so I did European studies, so it was really varied. I then moved abroad and worked for a travel company because I spoke 3 languages, and I was passionate about food, so that's why I applied for the job. And I was in charge of helping clients. So it was a sort of quite a high up market company, and they would go to very nice restaurants, sometimes Michelin star restaurants all over France, Spain, Italy, Greece. And I'd be in charge of organizing all that, telling them, sort of educating them about the local food and what they were eating and the wine. And I really, really enjoyed that side of it. But it was only seasonal because obviously in the winter in Europe, the weather wasn't good enough. So I was in London temping, just doing lots of random jobs. I worked with a cheese shop, a catering company, lots of different things. And one of them was work experience on a food company, food magazine, Olive magazine. And when I asked everyone how they got into that, they said that they trained at Leith's School of Food and Wine in London. So I thought, oh, right, okay, maybe I could go into food styling or food writing by doing this. So because I'd been living out of a suitcase for the sort of 2.5 years, they were putting me up in hotels in my travel job. I'd saved up money. So I used that to do their intensive course at Leith's, which is a 6 months accelerated course, sort of fast tracks you into it. And then they offered me a job there. So I started teaching there and other cookery schools in London. And that's where I met Yotam Ottolenghi and started working for him. He was just starting a cookery book then, writing for The Guardian. So that's how I sort of then fell into all those different food jobs.
Mhm. Oh, that's really quite the impressive career at this point. I'm sure that many here would particularly like to know what it's been like to work with Yotam Ottolenghi for all these years.
So yeah, it's been about 17 years. He's
Gosh.
absolutely great, really, really nice. He's also set up in that time. So I sort of went from almost working one-on-one with him, but then I moved away to Wales. I got married and started having children, and he built up a test kitchen in London where he then had more staff helping him because he was working then for the New York Times, Waitrose magazines would have things. He was lots of different cookery books were then starting, and a regular thing with the Guardian. So I went from sort of helping to create them with him and working with him in his own house to then being the sort of last person in the chain, checking and testing them. Sort of, I knew what he wanted, and that I was like the final check before things got published. So really nice job to have at home around my children.
Hmm. Could you say a little bit more about what exactly recipe testing entails?
So it's always really hard to explain to people, but I get emailed the recipe. I then buy the ingredients, I cook it, I follow it exactly, apart from if I really think it's going to go disastrously wrong, but normally it doesn't. And I just make any little tweaks and changes. So sometimes it's just human error. A chef has written it, Yotam's written it, and just something has been missed out. It's not very clear. Sometimes it doesn't cook in the right time, or it's too cooked or not cooked enough. Sometimes it doesn't serve, if it's 4 people, 6 people, maybe they haven't quite got it right. Obviously it's been tested a few times. So sometimes the final recipe is almost there, but just one or two little things. So I send back all the feedback in red on a spreadsheet. So I'm probably not the nicest person they love in the test kitchen, but I think Yotam likes that honest feedback from me, and it's always normally delicious, but very occasionally, if it's not quite special enough, I sort of say, well, it was nice, but yeah, I maybe do think needs to be tweaked to make it a little bit better. So yeah, that's about it really. It's quite straightforward really, and we get to eat delicious food.
Sounds like the perfect job, to be honest. And you have done even more fruit jobs over the years, haven't you, other than recipe testing?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I'm just moving to the next slide. Yes. So again, because my Instagram was growing and I loved sharing all the healthy food, I got approached by different companies. So it was a real dream for me. Companies, I only said yes to companies that I actually used or liked, but it was really lovely to be able to take their ingredients and they would say, right, we want a recipe for our website using our chocolate or our kefir or whatever it might be. Or I did like a Mother's Day special for Ocado and it had to be kids cooking these 5 recipes, but they weren't allowed to use an oven, a hob, basically anything. So that was a real challenge. It had to be cooked either in a microwave or no cook, so they could safely prepare it for their mothers. So I really enjoyed basically turning my hobby of food into something that yeah, was really creative and really fun and challenging. So um,
And you're certainly very good at sharing your ideas, I think. I mean, you've been on the radio, on podcasts and TV and newspapers in multiple languages at this point.
So yes, I just was asked, for example, on the BBC Wales here, to come and talk about various topics. So the last one I just went on was talking about bone broth, and so because I'm so passionate about helping people understand and use healthy ingredients like something like bone broth. It was really nice for me. I feel really privileged to be able to go on and share and talk about things or about how to encourage children to cook in the kitchen with you without too much stress. Or we filmed something for BBC Wales, which was all about again trying to get fussy children to eat good food. And so I was showing really quick recipes that I have on my Instagram to
Hmm.
the presenter, and also the journalists seem to love the story of checking the recipe for Yotam before it's published, because I don't think sadly a lot of chefs do, and then sometimes even cookery books have errors. So I think Yotam's become really popular because his recipes do work, because he does take that time and invest and have a lot of people obviously working on it. So I think it's
Hmm.
yeah, it shows that if you invest, you get a good return.
That's really good to know. Um, so tell us about any other exciting things you've got at the moment.
So yes, as well as testing Yotam's next book, which will be out next year, I've just done my own cookery book. I've just written that, just done the photo shoot in London for that. So
Mm.
that's been really exciting, because since I was young, I loved food and always wanted to write a book. So I was really pleased when Macmillan offered me a book deal. So I'm really excited to share that next year. It'll be, yeah, all of the sort of style of recipes I have on my Instagram, always fast and easy,
Mhm.
colorful, things like that. So low sugar, unprocessed, but just not too challenging when people are short on time.
Fantastic. Can you reveal anything more about the book at this stage?
I'm not meant to say too much, but as I said, it's mostly sort of very similar to what I do on Instagram. It's just always that using ingredients I really like. Eggs we use a lot, but other things like seeds, like sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, coconut, or olive oil, or fermented foods, or bone broth, like I said, or seaweed. So ingredients that they are easy to find, but maybe an average person wouldn't necessarily know how to get them into food, but they are really nutritious, and so they might want their children to eat it, or they might want to eat it, but they might be scared that it wouldn't taste nice. So how to get it in a recipe. So that was my challenge really. All the different chapters contain, I explain why. Well, I've used raw honey here because it's got more health properties than just the liquid honey you can buy in a supermarket, which often has sort of is quite sugary or it's been processed, so it's been heated, so you've lost the good enzymes. So I really enjoyed doing all these recipes and showing how you could get these good ingredients, but making the food still look really nice and taste really nice.
Mhm. And we spoke at the beginning about how you started your Instagram journey cooking for your children. Do you have any tips for parents of fussy children in this book?
So it's a question I'm asked a lot. So I do have basically a chapter or a section in it in my book, and I've also done newsletters over the years. I've now got a blog on my website as well. If anybody wants to look at that before, if you can't wait till next year, they're normally pretty straightforward tips that I've done, but they can make a big difference, because I know myself, having 3 children, that it can be quite stressful in the kitchen if they're fighting over things or they're making a big mess and parents go, no, I don't have time for this, I do not want to cook with my children. um, but I've got little tips about having the bowl on the side if they're really little with their own flour or whatever to mix, or having soft ingredients to chop, and not doing it when they're hungry, just doing a very straightforward recipe, so it's minimal washing up, things like that, so the mess then is quite controlled. So there's lots of tips like that, but also other things like eating with your children, which I think a lot of people know, but it's always, it is quite hard sometimes. You don't want to eat too early, but if you can eat with your children and you can give them the same food as you, they just see you eating it, they view it as normal rather than having sort of separate kid food. And the same goes for in a restaurant. I've always done that with my children, is I haven't given them the children's menu, which sadly is normally a processed option. So if they just have a small starter or share a main course, or have bits of yours, it again just opens up, went from very little, just getting used to lots of different tastes and flavors and foods to make them less fussy later on.
Mm-hmm. As a formerly very fussy child, I can certainly appreciate these tips, and I think my parents would definitely too. Right, so we'll open this up to questions soon, but I do have to end as we began with your beautiful Instagram account. So for any aspiring food creators out there, could you tell us a little bit more about your process of coming up with recipes, photographing, filming, editing?
I mean, I'm certainly no expert, but I just view it as I said, my hobby, which I really enjoy sharing. So all I do is, I don't know, my children, like I said, like donuts, or they love sweets, for example, but I don't want to buy them a packet of sweets. And now you may have seen on Instagram, I think it's become a little bit of a trend where people have sort of jelly sweets made with gelatin. But 10 years ago when I started making it, nobody really knew anything about it. But I knew that gelatin, like collagen, it's the same thing, but it sets liquid, is really good for gut health, for skin, obviously people know, and nails and things like that, but also joints, growth, repair. I'm married to a doctor, so we talk a lot about these kind of things. And I thought, oh, great, my children love sweets, they love colourful things, but I don't want to buy them the packet ones. So I'll make my own. And you go buy silicone molds, and instantly you've got, a unicorn or alphabet letters or hearts and shapes. And it was just sort of, yeah, challenging myself doing things like that, and then just sharing it, and helping other people think, oh, right, yes, I can do that. I literally just set the liquid and put it in a silicone. I hadn't thought about that. So I just really enjoy, I've always loved taking photos as well. So I've just really enjoyed taking pictures of my children eating them or making them, and then editing them, writing up the recipe. I mean, it is quite a long process, for, as I said, no payment, but I just really enjoy helping others to be able to eat in the same way as we enjoy eating the healthy food, but still nice and exciting. So yeah, it's been lovely to as Instagram grows. It's not always an easy thing to do, but because there's always people say there's lots of tricks that you need to do to get people to yeah, to build now, because there's so many people on Instagram to get a following. But I just view it as, I love sharing my nutritious food. If I think if you stick to something you love and you share that passion, then people want to follow and want to learn from you,
Mhm.
and then it grows. So.
Lovely. I mean, I've certainly learned so much today. I had no idea that gelatin was that healthy. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, collagen's taken off now. So it has definitely become a lot more people sort of knowing, and they don't really realize that gelatin is essentially the same, but it just is slightly different structure, so it sets liquid. So yeah, it's there's too much knowledge out there. That's the problem. Too much, not always accurate. It is a bit of a minefield, which is why I just try and keep it simple. And I just say to my children, well, if it's something that you can basically pick or grow or buy, and it's not in a packet, then you can't really go wrong. So if it's just an ingredient from an animal or a plant or a seed, then yeah, it should work.
Mm, amazing. Oh, well, we're already getting a few questions in the chat, if you don't mind sort of moving on to a slightly more informal setting. Again, what lovely pictures. You really have such a talent for them, and I'd be curious about your setup, but I might ask that later. Um, okay, we have well, a couple of questions. Let's start with this. How long does it take you to test a recipe? Do you have to make it just once or multiple times?
Is this my own or Yotam's? Because that's very different.
Both, I'd say.
So, so for my own, I definitely do it several times. So I never post anything until I've had the idea, I've created it. Sometimes it works quite quickly, sometimes it really doesn't, and I need to go again and again and again to test it. My children give me feedback. Oh, yeah, it's nice, but maybe not amazing. Okay, scrap that idea, or change it slightly, and until I've tested it several times and I'm happy it works. I wouldn't then type it up and edit the videos and publish it. For Yotams, I normally check the recipe once and I give back all the feedback for that. And then it's up to them. If they think there's issues, they might send it back to me for a final check. Or they, once they've adjusted it slightly, or they might just take my comments and send it off with those sort of updated changes. So yeah, only once for the Yotam.
Right. That's again good to know that it's already so accurate. Another question we have, what's one recipe from your Instagram that you're proudest of or would most recommend that we try?
As I'm creating new recipes every day, that's a very good question. I mean, I say every day. I share several new recipes every week. So that's the thing. My children never have the same thing again. And some of my ones that my children really love, I've put in my book, so I can't share those. So those would probably be my most popular one, but obviously I've had to save them for that. It really depends what people are after. So some people, love that you can make a biscuit with 4 ingredients and just stir them together, and that's really quick and easy. But other people just want savory dishes, so they just want dinners that are, like I say, you can just throw everything in a slow cooker and come back and it's ready. I'd say if sometimes they're more popular. I've pinned some of the ones that are popular. I think one of the ice cream ones and the biscuit and various things have been popular. But I think again it's a personal preference, what sort of ingredients you like, what appeals to you. So if you have a scroll down the grid and something catches your eye and you think, oh yeah, I really like the look of that, I'll have a go at that. Hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Amazing. Right, so we have a question about the book process, but just jumping off what you've been talking about, I have a maybe more specific question there. Is it how do you manage the line now that you're publishing a book between putting out content online for free and sharing these recipes versus saving things for the book? Has that been a challenge at all?
It has, and there's definitely I started doing the book sort of last October, and I've only just finished the photo shoot now, and so these last sort of 7 months have been really, really busy. And yes, obviously putting all my energy into creating new recipes for the book meant that I didn't have much mental capacity to then do other new ones. It was like I had to do double the content. So I must say my Instagram probably did suffer a bit where I wasn't posting so many new ones. I did post some old ones sometimes that were from years ago, because nobody goes right down your grid, and it's really nice to share. And actually some that I'd posted 4 years ago, I posted again, and obviously most people hadn't really seen it. As I said, Instagram doesn't always show every one of your followers every post anyway, so chances are even a dedicated follower wouldn't have seen it. And obviously lots of new followers since then. So yeah, it was nice to sort of just sometimes just reshare something that I've obviously invested time and energy into making and actually got lost at the bottom of my grid. So I sort of put it back up to the top, and it was really nice to see new people trying it. So yeah, I managed to juggle it, but not always easy, because I do need time and space to come up with new stuff. And when you're manic with work and 3 children and a dog and household things, and not always easy.
It's very understandable. Have you found when you look back at those old recipes that your tastes have changed, that your opinion on the science of healthy eating has changed, or is it like, do you tend to feel like your old recipes are just
Yeah,
as good as they were?
I didn't I don't think it's massively changed. I'd say for at least the last 10 years, if not, yeah, probably 15, since I really started having children, that, as I said, the way we eat is not a sort of certain diet or a certain trend. It never has been. As I said, it's always just been real ingredients. So I think if you just take any sort of whole ingredient and just a few of them and turn them into something nice, I don't think it can ever really be unhealthy. I know there's certain trends of which ingredients, but I believe that if it's there and it hasn't been tampered with, and it's not in a packet and it hasn't been sort of processed, it's going to have nutritional value and is going to be good for you. So we stick to the same things really that we had years ago. Hasn't really changed. Right.
That's good. Well, as I said, if anyone has more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or raise your hand on the Zoom and you can unmute yourself. Returning to the chat, though, a question about the book process. Can you speak more to the experience of the photo shoot? That sounds quite exciting.
So it was very exciting, although I didn't really do much. I was there to sort of oversee it, but there were 2 chefs cooking my recipes. There were 2 photographers. There was a food stylist or prop stylist. I think various people overlapped on that. The publisher was there, so really I was standing around just being asked as long as I was happy with how I wanted to shoot it. Maybe if obviously they would have the idea and check is that how you see it, or if there were any questions. But hopefully if the recipes worked and they were cooked, and thankfully there weren't any problems. So I felt a bit useless standing around, so I would try and do some washing up or anything I could do on the set in between. But they were a really amazing team. They were all so efficient. We did 10 recipes a day over about 8 days, I think. Not all back to back 8 days, but so yeah, it was just a really smooth. They would just come in, they would prepare everything, shoot it, go on to the next one. So very talented. They've done it a lot.
They must have loved you there doing the washing up. I don't think most people would have thought to do that.
Well, I'm so used to doing tons of washing up every day. I probably was having withdrawal symptoms.
A question from Esmeralda in the chat. Do you have any tips for encouraging a reluctant child to start cooking?
It sounds a strange one, but something that comes to mind that I've shared in my book on that chapter with fussy children is sometimes reverse psychology can work really well, which sounds a bit technical, but if you said, for example, oh, I'm eating this and you're not allowed to eat it, normally children want to eat it. If you try and force them, they normally push back. It's the same with cooking. If you say, oh no, it's really dangerous, you can't do that until you're really grown up. This is only allowed when you're big. All little children want to be big. They want to grow up. They want to show, oh no, I can. Okay, well, have a go then. So you're not forcing them saying, come and cook. You're actually doing the opposite, almost not allowing them to. And then that sometimes gives them that excitement that they want to jump in and have a go.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Do your kids have any favorite recipes to cook then?
So they all have their likes. My eldest now does a lot of sort of stir fry noodle dishes. She loves that. So I've started doing a few more of those because of her. It wouldn't be something I would have done a lot of, but she likes that. The little one always likes sweet things, so I just try and do healthy desserts with her. Ice creams, as I showed on here, or the jelly sweet she loves, or any kind of snack that is not sugary, but she likes a sweet thing more than a savory. And my son, he has actually become really good over the years at doing things like poached eggs. So sometimes
Oh, wow.
on the weekend, if my parents are here or something, and there's 7 of us, he just whips up a whole load of poached eggs because he's seen me do it. He can totally do it since the age of about 6. He's been able to do the hollandaise sauce with it. So I love seeing him do that. And then obviously it's become a bit his specialty now. So that's really sweet when they have their own little recipes.
That is so impressive. I don't think I've ever managed to successfully perfectly poach an egg yet. That will be a goal for 6 years
Buy my
old.
book and it will give you all the little tips of how. I mean, it literally is eggs, some vinegar and water. It's actually really straightforward, but it's I think there's a lot of recipes out there. It's the same. I've got a salmon en croûte that was really popular on my Instagram, and that is actually one recipe I've been allowed to put in my book because people think it as a really super fancy French, restaurant thing that I would never make at home. But actually, as long as you have puff pastry, salmon, I put cream cheese and herbs in mine, and you just fold it up, make a parcel, and cook it. Again, my 7-year-old basically started making it with a cooked lemon sauce, and it became one of our favorite dinners. And then I shared that, and people were like, "Wow, my kids love it." And like normally they hate eating salmon, but this is a really good way to eat it with the creamy cream cheese and obviously the crispy pastry. So they're like, we're making this all the time. Every week now we're doing salmon en croûte. Fancy. So yeah, you'll be amazed how some recipes, if you break them down, they're easier than you.
Again, 7-year-old cooking salmon en croûte. That's brilliant. As I said, keep your questions coming. Keep your questions coming in the chat. But I wanted to ask as well about your kitchen setup, especially looking at one of those previous pictures. Considering both that you are a recipe tester for your own recipes and other people's recipes, but your ethos is sort of keeping things simple. Do you have any tips for kitchen setups? What kind of kitchen setup do you have? What are the essentials in a kitchen?
So I have always worked in tiny, small kitchens, old kitchens, but just a year and a half ago, we finally saved up enough money and moved our current kitchen, which was in a cold, dark back bit of the house, to the front with a nice view and the sun. So I'm super happy now in my kitchen. But obviously that forced me to design my perfect kitchen, which was quite stressful when actually you've almost got a blank canvas, almost. Obviously you've got to work within the strengths of the room, but yeah, it was really really good to really have to force myself to think about what worked and what made it efficient, and it really has transformed. I would say that even though I spent the last 17 years cooking recipes for Yotam, I'm so much more efficient now, and quicker to do in my new kitchen because I've got a hidden pantry. I don't know if you can see in the photo I'm showing on the stream. There's a little, it actually just looks like a door, like a it looks like a
Ah,
door, but it's slightly ajar in this photo, so you
mm,
can actually just glimpse behind. So you walk and you go all the way down the length of the kitchen, so everything really is hidden out of view down there. So in terms of mess, but also ease. So I wanted, actually you can see in my, there is somewhere in my pantry there. You can see on the right hand side now, this is my pantry. So I wanted my spices, which I use all the time, or oils
mm,
or certain ingredients, I wanted them out so I can see them. I didn't want to be, going into a cupboard and finding them right at the back of a dark space. So I wanted everything on very shallow. So I would say for me, anyway, maybe not everyone, but I think everybody loves being able to see ingredients. So if you've got very shallow shelves as opposed to really deep ones, or if you've got deep ones, you have big pull-out drawers, then it really transforms your life and you don't spend ages searching for everything. And then with the actual kitchen setup, I would say there was always sort of old advice, which was like a magic triangle where you had your sort of fridge, your hob, and your sink or something like that. But I would say, I've tried to make it so I think in this photo you can see my sink, you can see my oven, my fridge is next to it, and then underneath my hob I've got big pull-out drawers. The bin is also behind in a big pull-out drawer. So within basically my arm's reach, I can go from the bin to the oven to the sink to the fridge to the chopping area to the hob. Everything is there, and then obviously everything else, equipment wise and ingredients wise, is hidden in my pantry. So I
mm,
think I've managed to get quite an efficient space, but still being beautiful because I didn't want it to look like an industrial kitchen that I actually test recipes in.
yeah. And again, following up on that, what would you say are the must-haves for a home cook, a parent, in terms of equipment?
Equipment. So I've got a whole section on my website which is called equipment, and I've listed some of those. I think I've done a blog about it on my website if anybody's interested. But I don't use many, I must say. I don't use lots of gadgets. I think that's one of the whole points of my recipes as well. They don't have many ingredients and they don't need lots of fancy equipment. So the main things I would use as a recipe tester as well would be electronic scales so that you get things accurate, because especially if you're baking and you don't use electronic scales, I think recipes can go wrong because you don't have quite the right amount, which can affect them. So I'd use measuring spoons, I use a lot of, and the scales. But other than that, really a knife, a board, really good pans, that work well. Invest in a good pan. And other than that, I really just use a blender, I would say would be my next, sort of like either a food processor or a high speed sort of blender. Other than that, I don't think I use many other gadgets.
Mm,
You can whisk by hand. I use a whisk sometimes, but there's nothing else I would say that is vital to make my recipes anyway, or most recipes, as long as you have like
mhm.
a tray to cook things on in the oven, a few mixing bowls. But yeah, other than that, you don't really need any fancy special
Right.
things or things.
Mhm. And we have a bit of a follow-up question about ingredients then, especially when you're recipe testing others' recipes, and Ottolenghi, for instance, has a lot of, unusual ingredients, sometimes more Middle Eastern ones. Do you ever find that they're more difficult to source?
When I first moved to Wales 15 years ago, I did really struggle, and I spent a lot of my time driving to Cardiff to go to certain places where I knew I could find a Chinese ingredient or, yeah, like you say, a Middle Eastern ingredient. So I spent a lot of time, but I must admit now there's a lot online that you can have sent to you, or
Mhm.
I use Ocado for my shopping. So I started using them because they were sort of really, they come from Bristol, which is my nearest big depot, and they seem to have everything.
Mhm.
So there isn't much I can't get on that, and very occasional things then online, or if I am in Cardiff, I try and stock up on certain ingredients. So in my pantry, well, one of my friends, one of my children's friends called my pantry a shop because basically I have everything in it. So once I've used it for a recipe and I've got it there, obviously I don't need to rush out and buy
Mhm.
those ingredients again for a while. So that definitely helps if they last and you have them in your pantry.
Mhm. Again, it sounds like your pantry is really the dream, the goal for any cook. Another question from the chat: because of your long history of collaboration, do you think that you have influenced Yotam's cooking style and vice versa?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I think Yotam has, like I said, he's got well, over the years he's had lots of different people working in the test kitchen from all different nationalities. So I think he always likes to be inspired by different people. and their tastes and their knowledge and their skills. So as he knows it's a collaboration. He can't single-handedly produce hundreds of recipes every year, which is why he's obviously got the staff in the test kitchen now to help him get his ideas into an actual reality, but also to inspire him. So they invite chefs in even and things like that. So I know he's definitely inspired by others. Sadly, I don't work with him a lot anymore. It's more, like I said, I'm the last person just checking it. So I see him once a year for when the book launches are out, so when he's got a book or things like that, or maybe a staff party, but it's not frequent. So no, sadly, I probably haven't much.
I'm sure you're underestimating yourself a little there, but another really interesting question from the chat, and perhaps one to think your own kids would think about going forward. What are some pantry staples you recommend that students living in dorms have?
I mean, obviously it depends what they like eating. My pantry, I have jars. I don't know if you can see on the photo, probably not on that one. I have jars of nuts and seeds and things like that, which I use quite a lot of. I've got oils, vinegars, spices. I've got beans, and then I've got lots of tins of things. So I've got tin tomatoes, tin coconut milk. I've got tin fruit. And then I have my few other random ingredients I could use quite a lot of arrowroot instead of flour a lot of the time, or the gelatin powder to set things. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else is on my that I use a lot of. I would say probably those are most of them. But it depends on the sort of recipes you're doing, I suppose. A lot of those ingredients are obviously for Yotam as well.
Great. Do we have any final questions from the chat, from the room? We managed to have quite a fruitful discussion, I think. If there's nothing further, we might wrap up, because I think we've had a really nice conversation here. And I'm conscious that people need to run away, but thank you so much, Claudine, for a really insightful talk. We hear a lot from academics and people working in different academic fields over in this group. So it's really nice to hear from someone with not just industry experience and real life experience, but seems experienced in every single other practical field of food. So this was really brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was an honor to be invited on. Have a nice day.